probably a combined total of 10 million influencers in the databases. And we're matching real customer profiles, these influencer profiles, from the last 10,000 checkouts you've had. Here are 150 influencers, at least from the creative perspective in terms of what the brand wants, just sharing some examples of other UGC that you've seen in the wild. So if you've got examples of TikToks with someone promoting a product, having like 4 or 5 of those, send them over to the brand and say, which of these 4 or 5 edits closest to what you think you want out of me? Because it became so much more difficult to advertise to them, they had to spend a lot more money. It's a lot harder for brands to get customers for the same price they used to.
Influencer Insight shares the battles, stories, successes of models, influencers, and entrepreneurs as they find the balance of being influential leaders today while creating long-lasting impact for the future. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another session of Influencer Insights, where I have a really unique guest on tonight. I got Luke Yarnton from originally from New Zealand, but now he's kind of running his business in New York and Mexico City, back and forth around the world. We caught up to him in summertime in New Zealand, finishing winter here in Canada, so we're kind of a little jealous up there. And but he's in Thursday already. It's Wednesday here, so he's telling us that the future is a good thing. But Luke runs a bit of a connection company called the Rave, which brings together influencers and UGC creators with different brands to work with the different products and promotions that they're doing. So he's got some really good insights on what works together really well for influencers and brands, and where to jump into that space. So I think anybody that's in that space is going to really gain a lot out of this. So welcome, Luke.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ben. Really excited to be on this podcast. It's
Yeah.
a cool opportunity for me to share some of my my experiences. Obviously, what we're building here at the Rave sits between influencers and the brands they work with a lot. So I have some insights I'd love to share around like how to be a really, really effective influencer and help influencers and creators understand some of the pain points that businesses and brands are facing in 2025.
Nice. Really awesome. Yeah, we got a lot of people that are kind of interested in, some of them are models, some of them are photographers, and some people are just influencers working on social media. So I think there's going to be some real insights here for you. But before we dive into that too deep, we kind of want to know a little bit about Luke and kind of a different transition to start life off in New Zealand and then enter into the US. And so what kind of made that journey come together for you?
Yeah, so look, I'm in New Zealand at the moment. I'm not, as you said, I'm not typically based in New Zealand. My cousin's wedding is this weekend, so I've flown back to
Models, join us on Facebook in our group where we've got all kinds of support and training you need to become a better model today. Check the link in the description.
that and obviously catch some of the beautiful end of summer weather that we're having here at the moment. But the sort of the progress to get to where I am now, straight out of university, I was lucky. I joined a really cool startup that was based out of New Zealand called PartPay, that was a financial technology business targeted at e-commerce businesses. And we did really well. They eventually moved me to London when we grew out of the New Zealand market. So I spent 5 years in London growing the team there and helping the business be as successful as possible in London. And then we got acquired soon after I got to London by a bigger Australian company. And that allowed me, or they moved me to New York, where I was based in New York for a year. Doing some really cool global growth, building teams in Mexico City, in Toronto, and over in Singapore. And then after a while, we sort of grew out of that role, and I think was sort of started to see that a lot of these financial technology businesses were having a tough time as the share prices sort of were obliterated. So
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have the option to either move back to London or if I want to take redundancy, I'd take a bag of cash and get on to something different. So I opted to build a business of my own with my co-founder who I was working with at the time. And this is what sort of got me to where I am now, where I'm spending my time between Mexico City and New York.
You've seen more of the world than a lot of people see in 10 lifetimes, I'm sure, anyway, at this point. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. You go.
The Rave's been, I think you told me before, a couple of years you guys have been kind of got this thing launched and rolling. And where are you in part of the business goes now? Are you working with different brands and stuff already? Or
Yeah, so we've probably got about 250 odd brands that are working with our technology today. The original product has changed a lot. So I suppose to speak to where we are now and how we've got there, the business started off originally with me and my co-founder seeing that there are a lot of issues with the existing referral technology and there is existing affiliate technology, where referral technology typically worked in a way where if I refer a friend, I get a referral link, and if my friend uses my referral link, I'll get they'll get a slight discount on their purchase, and my reward for bringing them a new customer was maybe like $10 off my next purchase, which wasn't a particularly great incentive, we didn't think.
Yeah.
And the reason that I felt so like passionate about this is that through lockdown and through the early COVID time, I got really, really into being a micro creator or a nano creator, specifically in the coffee space. So I used to film these coffee making videos where I would like load up the espresso machine and you'd pull those really sexy shots of espresso coming into the cup, set to some really relaxing music. And as a result, I was getting like a bunch of questions that would come into my DMs, like, which grinder is that? Which machine is that? Or I was posting pretty actively on Reddit these videos as well, and you'd get people that would all jump on threads being like, hey, would love to know where you bought that cup from. But I wasn't a very good influencer. Like by follower count stats, I only had like 900, at my peak, probably like 1,500 followers on my TikTok. So if you go to a brand and you say, hey, look, I've got 1,500 followers, can I get a commissionable affiliate link? At the time, they'd be like, no. It takes them a lot of effort to get people set up. Whereas I probably generated $20,000 worth of sales for these brands that I know and love purely by passing a link without any commission on the back of it, because people saw me using it and they trusted me, and I had this small community. So we said, look, there's this massive opportunity in these really, really small creators that are buying things they love and have the ability to refer their communities, their friends, family, and followers, but they can't get onto these affiliate programs. And one of the reasons for that is that these old affiliate programs are so clunky and the technology is so antiquated that it requires a lot of human effort to get someone onto the platform and to onboard them and to approve them. So we said, what if we could build a referral platform where instead of the referral reward being a discount off my next purchase, what if the referral reward was like a $5 Venmo payment that happened instantly the moment I succeeded in referring a friend? And just as a reminder to the first part of the story, like me and my co-founder are coming from the world of financial technology. We understand how to do this at scale. We understand that the world's changed a lot in terms of how sophisticated these financial technology platforms are. So our ability to deliver these small Venmo payments at scale and map someone through an e-commerce checkout from a technology perspective is something that's not crazy difficult for us to solve. So we launched that, partnered with a bunch of businesses, worked out to be like significantly better than the existing referral programs that they were running. And then we said, what other problems are these businesses having? Obviously, one of the biggest needs that businesses have at the moment is for user content, high quality user generated content. They use it for social proof on the website. They use it for ads and advertising, different cuts for different types of formats. And they also want it for social media fodder. So we said, what if we could build, using the same rewards mechanisms we already have, somewhere that we can capture user generated content and reward customers for creating it. So we did that and have a bunch of brands using the user-generated content platform, and that's working well. And then the most recent platform we've built sort of comes from a major overarching learning from the products 1 and 2, which is consistently we found that for the referral/affiliate platform and the UGC platform, the people that were doing the absolute best were it's consistently this person who bought organically, and they have like between 5,000 and 15,000 followers. So like the smaller end, these nano/micro creators are the ones that have super high engaged audiences. They're not at the level where they have like a manager or anything yet to complicate the process. So they're willing to start and share straight away. And as soon as you start sort of getting them understanding how the platform works and they start getting rewards, they become super effective. Like one of our best cases is for a brand that sells online suitcases, like that's carry-on bag for airlines. They discovered one of their customers had a referral link. He's a YouTuber. He's got like 5,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Hasn't had too many brand partnerships in the past, but he managed to onboard himself just by making a purchase, collected his link. They were paying $20 every time someone makes a successful transaction. And he's done probably over $150,000 worth of sales for this brand. Just one little YouTube guy with 5,000 subscribers, which is an incredible story.
No kidding.
And we've seen this time and time again. So we said, how can we make it easier for a brand to know who these like golden nuggets are within their audience? So we've built this new tool, which we call our Influencer Radar, which effectively uses some clever AI logic to match existing customers against known influencer profiles. So we're tapping into a couple of different influencer databases around the world that have probably a combined total of 10 million influencers in the databases. And we're matching real customer profiles against these influencer profiles. So we can say, from the last 10,000 checkouts you've had, here are 150 influencers who we know have made a purchase from you with almost absolute certainty.
Wow.
And then we've got a bunch of clever ways that we can take that list and make sure that they become your new ambassador army and they start producing great content.
That's incredible. Holy smoke. How did you guys, just going back a little bit, like how did you put this together in your mind that this was a good way to bring this together?
Probably less sophisticated than we should have. It was one of those moments where
Trial and error.
we're at the end of the road for the previous job. We knew that there was kind of a gap in the market here. And a lot of this sort of technology approach is just hack something together, fail as fast as you can, and see if it sticks. Is it something people actually want? And the key goal is to speak to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. So we would just had calendars full of people. We sort of had this thing where anyone who had an e-commerce store who wanted to speak to us, if they could give us $15, we'd give them a $10 Uber Eats gift card, just so we could get as deep learnings as quickly as possible. And you tend to hear the same things over and over again that you can triangulate around.
Right. Marketing, it's so amazing how it's just people think the same, right? So once you can tap into that, it's just pulling that same. So
100%.
Wow. And did you have any outside help, or did you guys just bootstrap this whole thing, or is it?
Yeah, so we started off bootstrapping. We were lucky enough that one of my co-founders, he's quite well connected in New Zealand and has successfully co-founded some exited companies in the past. So we were able to tap into sort of his angel investor network, and that helped out. Then we were also accepted into the launch accelerator program, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jason Calacanis. He's one of the guys on the All In podcast, probably not super familiar with the business podcasts, but he runs the launch. And so we were included in that incubator / accelerator program. That was super helpful for us. You're just connected with some of the best minds in the space and get to bounce your ideas off some really, really impressive people.
Well, yeah, no kidding. That just the experience of talking to some of those guys alone would be something else. So
exactly, like you get a little bit fangirl. I listen to a lot of the business podcasts, so like we're given the chance to. And this is probably going to go over a lot of the audience's head, but we got a chance to present at Sequoia Capital one day, and we were presenting in front of Roloff, who's sort of Silicon Valley celebrity, and got a little bit fangirl seeing some of the people in the room. Trying to keep my cool and keep it together.
Yeah, good for you. That's worth a lot. I'm sure they see lots of people, so expected to go through that. So okay, no, that's really good, and that's a real good basis of that whole software and program that you guys are operating. So you're running that in the background. You probably have a whole number of teams that are operating this thing at this point, or is it? Yeah,
so like we've got our team itself is still pretty lean. So we're just a team of 4.
Nice.
Of us from New Zealand, one in New York. But we've got 200, like somewhere between 200 and 250 businesses that are using the technology. We're lucky we're at an era in this world where a lot of this technology sort of runs itself, and you're just sort of pulling the strings and looking at the dashboards to make sure everything's alive and well and healthy, and then trying to extract some insights, looking at the bigger picture.
How much day-to-day, what's your day-to-day look like? Are you just on meetings right now, or do you get to enjoy some?
Yeah, look, it varies a lot. So at the moment, we're launching with the biggest business we've ever launched with by far. So it's a really big ticketing marketplace. So they're like I'm not sure if I'm allowed to disclose exactly how much volume they're doing, but it's in the hundreds of millions a year. So it's a little bit more sophisticated, and getting a project like this live and making sure all the stakeholders within their business understand all the way things work, and making sure our technology is robust and we keep all the promises that we've made. So a lot of my day at the moment is sort of focused on getting this major merchant live. And then on top of that, we've just recently launched this influencer radar product that I was telling you about. So I'm trying to have sort of between 10 to 15 meetings a day, just with merchants who are interested in that. We're pretty aggressively going to market with that product. So some of that's installation, some of that's first meetings and sales pitches. But at the moment, it's very like sell. Lots of Zoom calls.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Makes for busy days, I'm sure. So, talking to these brands, what are some of the biggest challenges that maybe $250 different companies that you're working with, they've obviously got a lot of the same challenges that they probably face. And what are some of the biggest ones, especially working with different influencers?
Yeah, so I think what the key problems that brands are facing at the moment, or I guess the key challenge that is pretty uniform across the entire space, is that the ability for them to find a new customer is a lot harder than it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
So 5 years ago, it was very easy if I was a brand to throw some money at a Meta ads campaign or a Google ads campaign, and I would be able to acquire a customer for like $3. And then, but more recently, and there's a number of reasons for this change.
Sure.
One of the key reasons, and not to get too deep into the weeds of this, but there was a thing called an IDFA change with Apple, which meant it was nearly impossible for a brand to track a customer from one platform to the next and to really isolate that this is the exact type of customer that I want to market my ads to. So because it became so much more difficult to advertise to them, they had to spend a lot more money, and the money was significantly less effective. So that means it's a lot harder for brands to get customers for the same price they used to. So this is what's feeding into a lot of the influencer marketing and creator marketing sort of spend at the moment, is that brands need to find a new way to get awareness of their brand. So in marketing, we call it top of funnel awareness, but brands need to find new and innovative ways that a lot of people, the right sort of people who are interested in the product, can be made aware that they sell this product. So that's sort of what's driving a lot of what's happening at the moment. Because they can't acquire customers and get awareness of their product really cheaply anymore, they're looking for new and innovative ways to get their product in front of the right audience.
How do you, from your study of marketing, been in the space, like how has the influencer been like the biggest benefit? Is it just brand awareness, or is it just having that like pinnacle point of contact with a brand?
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of reasons why influencer marketing is a unique way to solve this problem. So I think one of the other key trends we're seeing at the moment is that trust across the board is falling. So people trust advertising less. People tend to trust these mega influencers a lot less. But when you get into these sort of like mid-tier and lower influencers who very carefully built their audience, they have really, really high levels of trust. So if they say this is a good product, their audience who follow them and follow them for a reason tend to believe that as well. So you're not only getting a message to the right people, you're also getting a message to the right people in a tone that they understand, and in a way that they trust and believe the message that's being shared with them. So that's why these influencers are a really, really unique way to get in front of them. The other key trend is that consumers are becoming quite adverse to advertisements, where it's very easy to sort of like just look past the ads and switch them off. And in many cases, you can even pay a premium subscription for whichever app you're using to ensure that ads aren't being displayed to you. So it's a really unique way to get your product included in content that consumers want to consume. This is their favorite influencer that's talking about something. I listen to them, I take advice from them. So the product that I care about being involved in that, or part of that, or the fact that one of my favorite influencers has chosen to partner with this particular business or organization carries a lot of weight and cuts through the advertising noise.
Kind of the principle of if your best friend's recommending ice cream versus the principal of the school, you're probably going to pay more attention to the best friend, right? Because it's just more trusted no matter how close they are, right? So
exactly, yeah. So and that's the highest level of trust, and then it tends to drop away from there until you get to that higher level. There's this really interesting trend at the moment where folks are starting to get these AI generated influencers or creators to give product reviews and sort of fake UGC. Which I think is only going. I don't think customers are going to buy that. I think customers are much more sophisticated than that, and they'll have no interest in having an AI agent or avatar telling them the specific products. But those creators who have really well, carefully curated audiences are going to do so well because that's going to become infinitely harder to replicate when there is so much extra noise out there from these like fake influencers and AI generated avatars.
Totally. Probably some of the trend too to doing a lot more UGC content where it's very raw and real, right? Too, because people are that's going to be way more believable than the polished and pristine stuff.
Yeah. And I think to that specific point, at least that's what we're seeing, is that people want that raw, unedited, real life feel to that UGC. because the more polished it is, the less believable it is as well. And in line with that as well is it needs to feel the same. If you are scrolling through social media, it needs to feel in line with the rest of the content you're seeing. It needs to feel like the video that my friend is posting that I know and trust my friend a lot. So if the UGC matches that vibe, it feels like it should be there, and it doesn't feel like I'm being sold to. It doesn't feel as artificial.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, everybody wants to buy something. It's just you want to buy it from people you know, like, and trust, right? So.
Of course.
Cool. No, that's very good. What are, I guess, for the influencers, we've got some largely models that are paying attention to this podcast, but a lot of them kind of cross over in that other space and they want to work on some sideline content and stuff like that. What are some things that, especially if they haven't gotten into this space deep yet, what kind of mistakes should they avoid, things to be looking out for? What makes them stand out to a brand?
Yeah, so when it comes to someone working as a creator and influencer with a brand, it's really important for you to understand what is the key objective of this brand. Like, what do they want out of you? And often, having worked on both sides, brands can do a very poor job of this sometimes. So sometimes they'll purely want top of funnel awareness for the brand. And if that's the case, they just want to get as many views as possible on a piece of content. So working with them in a way that can maximize the number of people viewing it. So it might just be like a number of Instagram posters, like Instagram stories. Sorry, Instagram stories are a relatively low cost and low lift for someone to create. But if you've got the following, giving them 2 or 3 primetime posts might actually be a better outcome for them and an easier outcome for you to deliver versus trying to like negotiate a paid reel or something. And the way that works is that with these reels, if it's not genuine content and you don't feel great creating it, it's going to bomb with the algorithm as well. So there's no real benefit there. So understanding what they want, what a lot of brands will want now, instead of actually getting posted about, is they're going to want a really versatile piece of user generated content. So by that I mean they'll want a piece of content, you endorsing or using the product or showing yourself using the product in a certain way. And the trend now is that they're going to want to be able to chop that up in as many different ways as possible. So for your 1 minute piece of user-generated content, they might slice you in with 3 other people who've also filmed user content and post that in 5 different combinations and variations into the ads platform, because what they're looking for is these slight tweaks and slight changes can drive significantly different results for the advertising outcomes. They want to get the cost as low as possible. And the way they get the cost low is by creating a really good ad that people will watch to the end. So when you are producing that content for them, I think it's important to keep in mind that make the content in a way that can sort of be cut and edited as easily as possible. If they haven't given you a specific script of what to say, typically the way that works best is if you have like a number of different sort of really clear and obvious statements around what you love about the product with a brief pause between them so they can take the product, chop it up and say, here are a couple of different sort of one-liners that work really well. And then a couple of really versatile shots around you using the product that can also be cut with a different voiceover, or you use your voiceover in the same way.
Sure.
But I, if I was a creator, I wouldn't, unless you're specifically asked to from the brand, I wouldn't go to the effort to really carefully edit a TikTok style edit with sort of voiceover showing and a bunch of different really fast cuts. The brands that I work mostly with would much prefer having that in raw form, so they can then go and they'll usually have an editor on hand that can sort of cut and put everything together themselves.
Right. How, just from your experience, get back to my audience is a lot of the people that be doing the creating. What's the way that they could maximize, that's such a huge example, such a good tip there, but just to maximize the value that they could give back to the brand so they can, make it worth their own time too? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the issues brands have in that sort of creator partnership is one of sort of miscommunication. So I think to maximize the value, try and over communicate and really work hard to understand what the dream outcome of your partnership is. Right. For some of them, they'll just want sort of actual conversions and they'll say, look, here's your affiliate link, here's your referral link, do what you do best and make some transactions for me.
Yeah.
Other people will want that user content, and just making sure that piece of content is as versatile as possible is really helpful. And then just working with whoever your partner is at the brand to make sure you understand clearly what they want. And consistently on every single week in this business, I'm seeing an example where the business doesn't understand the creator and what the creator is trying to do, and vice versa. The creator doesn't understand the business. So typically one of the easiest ways for both of them to get around, at least from the creative perspective in terms of what the brand wants, is just sharing some examples of other UGC that you've seen in the wild. So if you've got examples of TikToks with someone promoting a product, having like 4 or 5 of those, send them over to the brand and say, which of these 4 or 5 edits is most closest to what you think you want out of me? And using that as a guide. And if there are specific things about your personal brand or your personal style or way of posting, just communicate that really early and really clearly, because the last thing you want is at the very last moment the brand's expecting something out of you that isn't on brand for you and you're not comfortable with that style of content. It feels too cheesy or too salesy, and having that discussion early on and helping them to understand that this is who I am as a creator, as a model, and this is my style, I think is really helpful.
Sure. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Is that a big piece?
Exactly. Yeah. And then obviously there's some easy own goals just by not being responsive or sort of ghosting, or if they've sent you some free items and they've done some gifting, so you've got some stuff. Just like anything they can deem as a freebie, like just a really easy post, or if you're wearing it in your story, tagging them, that stuff brands get absolutely hyped about. And to that point as well, like if you've bought something really cool and you'd love to work with that brand, obviously it varies depending on the size of the brand, but in so many cases, just by like snapping it, putting on your Instagram story, tagging the brand, and then as it's sort of at the end of its 24-hour window, taking a screenshot so they can see that you've posted it. They can see how many views you've got and say, hey, love your brand. Not sure if you're doing creator partnerships or influencer partnerships at the moment, but if there is a chance to work in the future, you can see I posted you here, would love to potentially do something. That stuff is almost like a guaranteed way to get on that brand's influencer roster. Particularly if you've given away like an Instagram story free of charge. And even if you only have like 2,000 followers or 3,000 followers, most brands still froth on that.
Yeah, totally. Like you say, sometimes they get those small followings, but they're highly engaged. You can have 2,000 engaged followers versus somebody with 15K, but they only got 200 people that are watching, right? So
yeah, 100%.
Are brands getting more used to working with UGC and influencer content and that kind of thing in the last few years? Have you noticed that, or is it getting more widely accepted?
Yeah, so it's a pretty important part of the mix at the moment. I think most there are some brands that survive perfectly well without any UGC and without any creator partnerships. It tends to be the younger brands are always the ones who are going to pick up this technology first. And you can see this being sort of integrated into the purchase journey in a range of different ways. So, for example, there are some brands who are going to display on the product pages genuine user testimonials in the form of a video to help explain this product and tell the story of this product. You'll see that probably the vast majority of advertisements you're seeing in TikTok and in Instagram are going to be UGC style shots where it's someone explaining the brand and how the brand works, and it'll just be a promoted post. Obviously, we've also recently seen the rise of TikTok Shop, which is much of the same, right? So that's what you call social commerce. It falls under the umbrella of social commerce, where it's actually embedded into the social platform that someone can explain the product and I can buy directly through. It's purchasable in that moment. And there's this has been sort of available in China for a long time, but we're starting to see more of these live streaming commerce sites popping up. TikTok Shop's obviously first, but there's a few other in their infancy that are popping up around the place at the moment as well.
Do you see that continuing to be a big trend, or maybe what are some other trends coming in the next few years?
Yeah, so I think that's definitely going to continue to increase. I think social commerce is here to stay. I think continually we're going to see a trend away from these big macro creators towards the mid-tier to the nano influencers as the ones that brands want to work with. There you get far more bang for your buck, and consistently we're seeing that these massive influencers actually underdeliver often with the promise of transactions. So from my perspective, I can sit and I can see the number of clicks that a unique links had, I can see the number of transactions, I can see the sort of the whole thread of the data. And I've never seen someone with more than 1 million followers outperform a good influencer with 20,000 followers.
Wow.
So our best influencers with 20,000 followers, like the top 10% of those, will outperform anyone who's ever had one of our links that's been sharing that has more than 1 million followers.
Wow.
And these partnerships to get the link into the hands of the 1 million person influencer or creator often costs a couple of tens of thousands of dollars just to get them sharing it. But that's not to say, like, we're still going to see creator brands and creator partnerships into the future. These massive mega influencers still do serve a purpose in terms of helping a business brand themselves and position themselves and to be associated with this person. But from like a performance marketing perspective, and by that I mean like having somewhere that I can put money into or put effort into and generate sales. These nano influencers are going to continue to be the driving force well into the next 5 years, I believe. So we'll keep seeing more and more brands shift more of their money, and it's going to start taking funds away from performance marketing with Facebook ads and Google ads. They're going to be driving into platforms that, like ours, that reward customers for bringing their friends, family, and followers on board, and gamify that a little bit further as well. So by referring 5 people, you can unlock this really cool, unique item, or something like that.
Right. Have you seen some of that capital moving from the ad space into influencer marketing already, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very rare that a brand that's doing more than $10 million a year, for example. So I think in the United States, there's probably 10,000 businesses that fit that category. It's very rare that you would come across an e-commerce brand. I'm speaking on Shopify specifically, as where we live most of our life. It's very rare you'd come across a brand that doesn't have a fair chunk of their marketing budget allocated to, we call it user-led growth or like people-led growth, where it's investing in either creators, influencers, or everyday shoppers to activate a new growth channel. Brands, as I mentioned before, have been burnt over the last couple of years by these Facebook ads and the Google ads. So having a channel outside of that in influencers or existing customers as a channel to grow through is really important, just to de-risk the whole business model, because there's nothing we can be sure about in the future that Apple or these platforms won't change their logic again. And once you break that revenue model and you can't get customers through the front door anymore, your business becomes very complicated very quickly.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Complicated, meaning no revenue. Influencers, some of those changes, and I mean, it's all unpredictable and you never know exactly what's coming. But do you have any things that you've seen people do that help them prepare for the future and continuing their content creation, or things that you maybe think would be a benefit to keep growing and building in as they develop?
Yeah, look, I think to prepare for this future, if you were a creator that's looking to do partnerships with brands and build your audience, just getting comfortable and used to preparing this, whatever's in trend at the moment. So the style of UGC or the style of ads tends to go in cycles. So you're seeing them every day as you're scrolling through TikTok, and just being familiar with those and getting repetitions in. So if a brand does reach out, it doesn't take you 1 hour to get that cut right. If it only takes you 15 minutes to get that cut right, it's far less burdensome on you, and you can sort of build off that. If you are trying to build an audience, I know you mentioned a lot of the folks you're working with are models, but if you can also own like a niche outside of just purely being a beautiful model, and being like, I'm a model who's also really good at yoga, for example. Like in that way, being versatile means that you're like really in a good position for yoga partnerships as well as modeling work, and or like health foods, for example. Something that there are brands that exist in the space that are always going to be looking for partners. And by building an audience of people who trust you, and you being a trusted voice in the health food space, makes you an absolute weapon for these brands. And as we're seeing time and time again, you may even get the opportunity to be like one of these creator-led and partner-led brands where it's very common now that a creator that has a strong following and has some authority in the space will partner with an entrepreneur or someone who has a business idea and wants to grow it. And purely just by being a face and having a following, you get equity in this business and all the upside. Whereas in the past, you'd purely be someone who's just creating ads for them.
Right.
And The other thing, this is like a very easy one, and I've seen one on my desk here.
Yeah,
Get yourself a high quality microphone. High quality
probably a good
audio
one.
when you're making these like user generated content videos makes the world of difference. It's really simple. And like this one, you can buy them off like AliExpress or off Amazon for like $7. The good ones cost a little bit more.
Right.
But the $7 ones,
Still better than the
they make your
phone.
content sound so much better.
Well, that's a really good tip. Awesome. Anything else in that space that you think people should know or that you'd like to be selling that you wish everybody knew? But
Yeah, so I think I'd like to double down on that point earlier. Just brands are always receptive to work with new influencers,
okay,
and shooting a message to them, a brand that you love. So like with this influencer radar product we're using, for example, a
sure,
lot of the work we're doing with brands is we have identified people who have made a purchase from the brand recently and have above a minimum level of followers. So often it'll be like we're looking for people between 3,000 followers and 10,000 followers. We're DMing them from the brand saying, "Hey, just noticed you bought from us. If you'd be interested in posting about us on your Instagram story, we'll more than happily refund your order completely."
right,
And brands are like, that's an absolute no-brainer because they're getting reach. The person already has the products in their hand, so I'm not having to mess around seeding or gifting it to them and sending it to them, working out what size. They have a product that's recently arrived. And for them, that's a really easy decision to make. And so if you're a creator or an influencer that has a small following and you think you'd be able to make a great piece of user content, hit the brand up and say, "Hey, look, would love to, this is my idea, this is what I'm going to post," or just rip it and post it yourself and
right,
say, "Any chance we can work together?" And once, typically, what I'd recommend as well is that just make sure you've proven yourself first before you ask for a fat fee. Brands are consistently getting ripped off by
no
some of these
joke,
big user-generated platforms out there where they'll send a free item and be promised a bunch of videos that never turn up, or they turn up and they're not of the level that the brand wants. Your ability to negotiate a fair price for your content becomes a lot easier if the brand has seen that it's worked in the past and it is the type of content that they expect.
right,
What we'll see more of in the future is brands are going to start building their ambassador army or their influencer roster, and they're going to keep going back to the same people time and time again. Whereas now they're sort of sleeping around a bit and using a bunch of different creators and trying to get as many people using their product as possible. What I'm seeing more of is once they discover someone that produces great content, and more importantly, someone who produces content that the Facebook and the Instagram algorithm absolutely loves, they're the ones that get rewarded time and time again. And I suppose just as a unique point of insight that probably a lot of your creators don't understand
mm-hmm.
is that why the brand cares about this is that if they're spending $50,000 a month on ads, a bad piece of UGC video that they turn into an ad means that $1,000 is going to be $1,000 worth of ad spend behind this ad might only be seen by 50,000 people. Whereas a really good ad, because the algorithm recognizes that this is a good ad that people are pretty happy to watch and you'll get more clicks and better engagement.
Yep.
That means that same $1,000 is going to be seen by 100,000 people or 200,000 people. Like the differences are absolutely remarkable. So if you produce a high quality piece of work that the algorithm loves, and by the algorithm, it means the people who see the ad love, you are worth so much money for that brand. But the willingness for a brand to take a chance on you before it's been proven is quite low.
Right. No, that's a fair point. And yeah, I think sometimes when you're a creator, just from my own experience, there's a level of like insecurity. I don't know if this thing is good, bad, or otherwise. And I don't know if that always needs to be the thing that you focus on, but just making the best piece of content in the most, I guess, collaborative way with the brand as possible. And that's what they're looking for because they know where that brand or where that ad content's going to shoot to, right? So
exactly.
focusing on that. So.
And brands, to that point as well, I know that the nature of being a creator is that you want every single piece of content you put out to be perfectly polished.
Yes.
And like you're an artist, it's an artist's job to make sure every piece of art you produce is beautiful.
Yeah.
What brands want is they would rather 4 mediocre pieces of content that they can test out and work out what the algorithm's going to like and sort of use that as iterative learnings to work towards what the perfect content might be like rather than one perfectly polished piece of content. So right. I know it might feel unnatural as someone who's creating content to send like just heaps of content over.
Yeah.
But that tends to be the trend that I'm seeing at the moment is people just want lots of stuff. And in the past, if you're a brand that's advertising on Meta or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube ads, for example, you might be running 5 ads per month and testing the 5 ads against each other. It's perfectly normal now to log in and see brands having 100 to 200 different pieces of creative that are being run concurrently to work out what's going to be the flavor of the month.
Right. Cool. Oh, it's very impressive stuff, and you can definitely tell you've seen a lot of the background. That's really, really insightful there, Luke. Appreciate that. What for people that might want to work with you? Maybe there's a brand that's on here that wants to do something with you, or for a creator. What's that process look like? Which platforms do you kind of get involved with?
Yeah, look, we're always working with brands who are looking for user content. So if you do want to dip your toes in and test some stuff out, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm luke@therave.co. Otherwise, find me on LinkedIn, Luke Yarnton. I'm sure we can add a direct link to my LinkedIn in the show notes. I'll be trying to share more insights like this through my LinkedIn profile as well.
Cool.
But yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to have a chat.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few people that are looking for that and considering some different revenue possibilities for themselves. So this is a great way to get that going for them. So, any targets, things that you kind of want to see this thing take off to, just on a personal note, I guess, thinking of closing out, where do you want to see yourself go with this thing?
Look, my background is my family have run small retail stores my entire life. So I grew up behind the counter of a menswear store in Auckland's Devonport. So I get a lot of joy around helping as many businesses as possible. So for me, like, the goal is I want breadth. I want because I know our technology helps small businesses compete with big businesses where traditionally, like, influencer management and affiliate and referral were pretty human intensive businesses. So being able to have a small business that doesn't require a team to manage these difficult processes is important. So if we could be working with 50,000, 100,000 businesses, that would be something that would absolutely sort of bring me a lot of joy. And knowing that we're helping, like, the little guys compete with the big guys, I think is something that's really cool. But also the fun thing about this business is it's two-sided as well, right? Where by being integrated with a lot of these businesses, you're also creating a bunch of really cool opportunities for the audiences and the customers who love these brands, who are also influencers, to make some real cash on the side. Like, we've had multiple people who have made more than $30,000 on our platform in the last couple of months. So, and that's creating content, talking about a brand that they love and something that they bought organically. So helping both sides is something that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, no kidding. Now that you brought that up, kind of a parting sort of thought as we're closing out, besides coffee and the motivation of just seeing everybody have that success, how do you kind of get yourself going and stay focused on your own goals and stuff like that, Luke? Yeah,
look, it's startup life is a roller coaster. We've had some incredible days lately, but that's not to say that there aren't mornings that you wake up and yesterday you've had the platform is broken in some way, shape, or form, or there's been something that's fallen apart.
Haven't slept in 25 hours.
Exactly. So it's important to remind yourself of the end goal and where we're trying to get to. I think for me, luckily, like, back here in New Zealand, I've had the chance of going back, spending some hours working in my father's business and sort of being reminded around, like, this is what core business is all about. These are the types of businesses I want to be helping out on a daily basis. That helps to reset the compass and reconnect and sort of ground everything. And I'm getting ready to head back to Mexico next week, fully energized, ready to attack the game again.
There goes. Cool. Well, it's been a great pleasure having you on and hearing your story about the Rave and where you guys are taking that. We're looking forward to hearing more results and hopefully connecting you with some of the people in our audience. And hopefully we'll paths across in New York or someplace in between there. It'd be good to connect in person sometime.
Hopefully, Ben. So, that'd be great. And look, this has been so much fun being on this podcast. A real change for me from usually I'm speaking on sort of e-commerce podcasts or marketing podcasts. It's very sort of granular and very academic, and being able to speak to this audience and share some insights that I hope are going to be really useful for the people that are listening today is something fun for a change.
Yep, for sure. No, they absolutely will. So appreciate the time. So
excellent.